So, how's the creativeness going at the moment?
Yeah, it's good. The last 6 weeks I've been basically working on my live material, which has been a quite a good learning curve. So I haven't created too much in the last 5 weeks, but this is kind of part of what I wanted to do, was to put together a live thing. So that's eaten up most of my time. But you know, until the point where I sort of stopped to do the live work, I was firing. The 3 weeks preceding that were probably the most productive I've had ever. It's been really fantastic. I was kind of waiting for it to end because it was just too good. You know, every time I sat down in my studio, I would just have awesome days. You know, and it was a very significant 3 week period.
Brilliant.
Got amazing amounts done. So yeah, it was very, very good. I think it sort of came at a good point in the course as well. Everything sort of really came together in a big way.
Yeah. So I mean, your situation is kind of unusual in many ways, in that when you first sort of contacted me, you sent me. I remember you sent me an email and you said, "I'm in a really high pressure job." Why don't you sort of explain, Steve,
sure,
how you sort of came to sort of join the program and everything, and what happened?
Okay. I'd been working in the sort of finance industry for far too many years, and it was just grinding me down. I mean, every promotion was more responsibility and less time and more work. And I've always been involved in music from when I was a young kid. And in fact, there's been a number of junctions in my life where I've almost made the move into music, but never quite got there. And I think just the work eventually just got too much. I was out of the country 50% of the time. Regularly working 16-hour days, waking up almost every morning with just absolute dread about going into the office. So I think I had reached a pretty low point. So I made the call to I wanted to stop that and just have a complete change in what I was doing. And I thought that's a good time also to answer the question which has always been unanswered for me, is could you make it in music? So at the time that when I got to know about your course, it was a very good time. I was sitting in some dingy hotel in Detroit. I remember it quite well. Late Saturday night, nothing to do. And I stumbled upon a couple of your leader things that you put out, and it all just resonated so well about have you ever found yourself in this situation or that situation? And boy, I ticked every one of those boxes. At that stage, I actually hadn't written a tune for 7 years, and preceding that, I was actually quite relatively prolific. I would generally try and get a CD of 6 to 12 tracks out every year.
Oh wow!
And I did that fairly. When I say out, I mean out to friends and family.
Yeah.
I hadn't quite graduated to.
That is still out.
That's still out. Yeah. And I think a number of factors just built up to the point that I just ground to a halt. I diligently set up a studio wherever I lived, and they were sending me around the world to live in Japan and live in Korea, and I would religiously sit down and set my studio up because I was going to work on music, and a year would go by and I'd have absolutely nothing. So I'd ground to a halt, and then also the work had just got to the point where I think I was a breaking point if I had to keep going in that vein. So everything kind of came together, and I stumbled on your site and the newsletters and stuff you were sending out, and I just thought, this stuff sounds like the stuff for me. It was quite funny though, because I naively thought that I think I'd forgotten what the creative process involved.
Yeah.
And I naively thought that if I just quit my job and went full-time music, I was just going to fire away, and I was just going to be hammering out tunes. And I almost sort of took on your course as a bit of a safety net. I thought, oh, look, I probably won't need this, but let's go for it anyhow. And I was so wrong. I mean, I sat down in the first couple of weeks of being full-time music. Cleared the desk, had everything ready. I mean, I'm a very disciplined person, so I had the whole schedule drawn up about what I was going to do. And nothing really happened. I mean, it just I think I forgot. a lot of what I thought I'd put on the work as being my issues for not creating wasn't actually that. It was just the normal creative process that I had to get my head around.
Well, it's really funny you should say that, actually, because literally before this call, I was responding to an email from a fellow program member who was basically, it was a cry for help email. I get them from time to time, which is like, oh, I'm having a meltdown. Basically, what had happened is exactly what you're describing. He's sorted out his studio. It's perfect, in inverted commas, working situation. He's taken a step away from work. He's got 6 months to spend completely focused on music. And what's happened? He's like, oh, totally lost. He doesn't know. He just doesn't know what to do. I mean, one of the reasons for this, and it's not the only reason, but it's one of the reasons for this, is that, and I say this a lot, but I'm going to say it again, is that creativity, what creativity is, what the creative process is your brain's way of overcoming a problem. And those problems are often limitations like time and equipment and knowledge and certainty and stuff like that. And so when you remove those limitations, which you had been using in order to be creative, your brain doesn't know what to do. It kind of goes, oh, I don't need, I'm all right then. And often too many options, whether that be time or equipment, actually means you have no options.
I should have seen the writing on the wall, because a couple of years prior to actually stopping work, again I was at sort of wit's end in terms of work, and I took 9 months unpaid leave to travel the world with my girlfriend, and we were both in the same sort of situation, and I got together a nice laptop and a little portable a controller keyboard, and I thought, I'm going to write music for 9 months while we're traveling. And I didn't write a stitch. I didn't even write one loop.
Right.
And that was despite sitting down regularly to try and write music. So yeah, it's a complex process getting creative.
I mean, do you think if you'd have known what you know now, because you've been through the course once already now, and so do you think you would have approached that differently had you known what you know now? That situation when you were traveling.
Yeah, I think both situations, when I was traveling and when I was, the 7 years which I didn't write a single piece of music, I know that I could definitely have, even those 7 years, despite how hard I was working, I could have written music, and I could have written a lot of music.
Yeah, right.
I don't think it would have changed my decision to give up investment banking and go music. But I certainly could have produced in those last 7 years. There was, and I think even when I was traveling as well, I think with a different mindset and knowing the triggers and I guess having some of those tools in your sort of toolkit to combat the things that come up when you're creating, that's been the sort of biggest thing for me. I just feel so much more equipped now. The angst still comes up and you still have issues. But I think I sort of understand the process now. I know how to deal with it a lot better.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that it's kind of hard to make clear. But the sort of struggle is part of the process. But that doesn't mean that you have to struggle without help. I mean, being aware of that struggle as being part of the process is the first step. But then there are ways of overcoming. I mean, there are ways of making that struggle. Easier is maybe the wrong word, but there are tools that you can use to sort of get through it and overcome it and still be effective and not turn it into, because often what happens is when you start to struggle, because sometimes you have times when you're not struggling, you had that 3 weeks, and then other times you are struggling. I mean, that is always going to be the case, but the problem is when you start to struggle about the fact that you're struggling.
Well, that's I think it's a vicious circle, and it actually doesn't take much of a nudge to put you into that spiral.
No.
And once you're in that spiral, it's. I mean, I don't think I would have coped in the last 6 months without having, I guess, the assistance of your course and the sort of tools and things that it's brought along. Particularly being full-time music and the pressures that puts on me. I mean, people. I have a lot of difficulty with people who refer to this as my year off. And I have to explain to them that firstly it's not a year, and secondly I'm not off. I'm actually working damn hard. But that in itself puts massive pressures on you. I mean, I've obviously got rid of the sort of corporate stress, but you put a massive amount of sort of stress on yourself to try and now succeed. And I reckon I would have imploded in the first month of being full-time music had I not had you feel these tools and things to sort of to hold on to and understand about the whole process.
So, I mean, in terms of those tools, what, for people who aren't thinking of going on the program, because I always like these videos to have some kind of value for those who you know aren't thinking of coming on the program at all. I just want, you know, I want there to be some kind of content which they can use. So, I mean, what would you say to somebody who maybe is struggling with the creative process? What have you learned from the course that you can tell them, do this and this will help?
Well, I mean, there's plenty. I guess one of the key things for me was letting go with the preciousness about your music. I think we tend to put our music on this pedestal, and that is I think a complete inhibitor to writing. You know, I went back and I listened the other day to the track that a CD that I put together in 2000, so it's 13 odd years ago now. And some of my best music is there when I had absolutely no constraints and I wasn't even precious about the music, you know. So I think if people can learn to let that go and just get it out there, you know, your next tune is not necessarily your next number one. Write it, get it out, go on to the next piece. I think that can make a huge difference. You know, I think I lost probably about a 2-year period where I'd suddenly decided that I was going to be a minimal techno producer. And for 2 years, I didn't write a single thing because I was just trying to pigeonhole myself into that and be completely precious about it.
You were being really, really minimal. I suppose you were being a really minimal techno.
To the nth degree, yeah. And you know, as soon as you can let go of those things, I think it makes a massive difference. Yeah. Likewise, I mean, I got hung up for about an 18-month period that I shouldn't be using loops. Despite the fact that I'd used loops before, quite constructively, all of a sudden I decided this was not on, and I got all purist about it. Didn't write a single thing.
Yeah, you know? Right. Yeah.
So I think those fundamental things have made quite a difference. The really massive thing for me was an understanding that these ups and downs you go through in the creative process, everyone is going through it, and you're not alone. You know? Because I think that's been a sort of one of the biggest things that stops you going into the spiral. You know, you sort of you notice it, you recognize what's happening, you have a bunch of these tools which you can then start putting into place. So you feel equipped to fight against it, or to work against it, or work with it, and you move on. You don't ever get into that spiral.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the fact that there's a community that really helps. I mean, you're a very active member on that community, which is really appreciated, I think, by everyone, and that helps. I mean, when you see other people going through something that you went through a month ago or something, or you know, and you know that it's not just you. And I mean, the terrible thing about being creative is that it doesn't last forever. You know what I mean? You do have moments when you go down, but that's also the great thing about it, because it also means that the periods when you're stuck don't last forever, as long as you don't get stuck about being stuck.
I think that makes sense. The community has been great. You've got a huge range of people who can all teach. You learn different things from them, despite what level they're at. Because it's a complex process. Is this music production, and it's not just the experienced guys who got stuff to teach. You know, and I think being a sort of walled community, you've got a slightly different type of attitude on the forum. I've been on a number of forums where you post music, and you don't get the same level of sort of engagement that I think we're getting through your forums.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I keep it closed, and want to keep it closed more than anything else, is that it means that, well, I mean, you just don't get the level of negativity for a start. At all. I mean, it's very supportive, and it kind of it means you do get your kind of groupings, and people get to know each other. You know what I mean? There's that kind of thing.
No, it's been great. I mean, I'm busy with a couple of collaborations which off the back end of that.
So they're actually happening, are they? Because I saw
I've been working with Vidar in Norway.
Oh, brilliant.
Apologies to him because I've been a bit behind on it's sitting on my desk at the moment. But yeah, definitely that was something that we wanted to do. Both sort of started with some ideas of tunes, sort of threw them over the wall and started to work through them, and it's great. You learn a whole bunch of new concepts. Just sort of seeing how someone else works and checking the creative process from the other side. So that's been great as well. I really enjoyed that.
And so how is it? Because you're in Sydney and Vidar's in Norway. So how's that been working like literally on the other side of the planet?
Well, we're doing this one as a kind of a serial process. So we'll set up a project in Ableton. We have it stored on Dropbox. So we don't take it off Dropbox. It just stays there. We each kind of work on a little piece and then throw it over the wall to the other person with various notes and emails. And then every now and again we hook up on just a chat thing at the same time, and work through a few little ideas. I mean, it's not seamless, but this is the first one. We'll kind of see how they go.
Awesome. Also, I can't wait to hear the end result. Because you are going to finish something, aren't you?
Totally, we keep on saying we are going to.
So I've got this has been great. Thank you so much for sort of sharing your experience. But I just got a couple more questions, because one of the things that people talk about and use as one of those kind of excuses for if I'm going to be harsh about it, for not doing this thing, is because you're a mature man,
I like to think so.
It's your birthday today, in fact, isn't it?
It is.
So I'm not going to share your age in public.
I'm beyond worrying about that. I'm 46.
46. Okay. So what would you say to people who are like, because you stopped your big corporate job, how long ago was it now?
Just over 6 months, so 7 months probably. Yeah.
Okay, so at 45. So what would you say to people who go, well, it's too late for me to, make the big change, focus on music?
I just say life's too short. You've got to do these things. I sort of at the back of my mind, I always didn't want to sort of see myself get into sort of 80 or whatever, I'm going to die. Lying on my deathbed there and going, I wonder what would have happened. I think it's just a number of things sort of came together in my life, and it was just the right time to do it. And I think you've got to buy to these things. And every single decision in my life that I've made along this vein, which has been quite radical, be it to move to Sydney, be it to go and live and work in Japan, taking 9 months off at a time in my career which definitely wasn't ideal. Stopping working at a time in my career where it was totally not ideal. All the other decisions have paid off in spades. So I don't think the age thing is an issue. I think you've got to get in and do these things. You know in your heart what you should be doing. I mean, I go to bed every Sunday night super chuffed that I'm going to work the next day. I mean, the work happens to be my studio, so it's a lot more enjoyable. But you compare that to waking up 5 days a week just dreading going to work. I mean, it's not good for the soul. So I'd be saying the age is immaterial. I still think the old guys have got it in them. I mean, you look at the stuff that Daz is putting out. I mean, I think he's got a great sound. He's got such a unique sound.
Yeah.
And he's doing that while, with the wife and kids and a silly, crazy job. So, yeah, to the young guys, I say, check that out.
Watch out, yeah. No, exactly. I mean, it's never too late. It's funny. It's such a state of mind. I get emails from people who are like 23 saying, is it too late?
I read those ones.
I was like, it's so not too late. I mean, there are actually a lot of benefits to being older, in terms of being a music producer and that kind of thing. So, yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you. Go on.
So I was going to say, I still have to actually make this a living. I mean, that's the thing I'm working on. But certainly having fun trying. Excellent,
and I'm sure you will. I mean, it's not. I guess it is always possible, unless you're talking about flying to the moon. Then pretty much anything is possible. It's just about working out what the steps are well, no, first of all, working out what it is you want, then working out what the steps are, and then actually, once you've worked out what the steps are, working out whether you actually still want it, because that's an important thing, because sometimes those steps will involve things that you want, that you're going to have to sacrifice, or things that you're going to have to do which you're not willing to take. And then if you do want to take those steps, then taking the steps and obviously course correcting along the way, and that will end up in it being a reality. I mean, I'm absolutely sure of that, and I'm sure the same is true of you, Steve. I've got no doubt in my mind whatsoever. So even if you do.
No, little doubt at the moment.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for this. I'm sure everyone's found it really useful. Actually, before we go, where can people listen to your music? Where can they find your music?
Well, it's all up on SoundCloud. I operate under the name Steve Potts, Pottz. So if you search on Steve Potts on SoundCloud, all my latest stuff's there. Some of my older stuff's there as well. So yep, all available there.
Fantastic. Well,
cool.
Good to speak to you, Steve.
Thanks, Mark. Good to speak.
Cheers.
See ya.